Just showing you, it's been about an hour since I put the turmeric in with the salt and the water. I had it on at a low heat and it's soaked up all of the water now, so if I just get a spoon so I can show you. So sorry, can I just have someone else record? I didn't realise I'd need to cover this. So it's essentially it's soaked up all of that like dye, well, all of the herbs and the salt and stuff. If I try picking this up, at the moment you can see it's sort of like got a paste on it, which is the herb. If I rinse that out, it will be like sort of orangey yellow colour. However, because it's only sort of soaked through in the past, maybe the past hour, it may rinse out looking a bit pale. I don't I don't want this to be too bright because of the fact that the yellow on the Bird of Paradise is like a banana yellow, but I did want it to be a bit more rich than that because of the fact that it's for stage wear. So I'm going to give this another couple of hours. I'll then rinse sort of one of the very ends of it, which I can cut off anyway if I need to, and then show you. I'm just going to try now scraping at this to see. So you can see when I get rid of everything, it's quite a bright yellow underneath. But then when I rinse it with the water, it will end up being paler than that, and that is sort of around the colour I want when it's finished. So I am going to leave it in for a couple more hours and then I'll rinse it out. I'll video it when I do that, so that you get to see what the final result is. It's been a couple of hours since I showed you the laces had soaked up all the dye. So I decided to cut off a little bit from the end and see how well it had taken. This has now been rinsed. Don't know how well you can see, but it's quite a lovely vibrant yellow, which is a bit dark but is going to dry a little bit paler than that as it's still wet. Just to show you slightly, I just basically put it through the water to get rid of all of the kind of gunk from it. What I'm going to do now is rinse off the rest of the laces, so you can see how to do it. This may take a couple of goes, but it's like hand washing something. I'm just going to take my engagement ring off because I don't want to get that covered in turmeric. You see, it's all of that excess is just coming out in here. If I just show you in the pan, that kind of paste is what's dyed it, so that's what you're getting off. And rinsing out, I'm just going to run these into the water as well. Get a refill, I think. Making a nice bright yellow mess absolutely everywhere. You can probably see this has turned out a little bit darker than what I was expecting because I left it on a bit long, but it's taken really nicely. What I would say, if you're going to be dyeing your own laces, I offer this when I'm making custom corsets because it's just a really nice touch to have a matching lace or a lace that's in like a contrasting colour, and you can only buy ones that aren't sort of black or white in like a synthetic fibre, which isn't very nice and it kind of stretches a bit. So I bought the natural laces from Carver, which are undyed, so it wasn't the white ones which have been bleached. This would have turned out really, really bright on those compared to even this. So if you were going to be having a go at doing this, what I would suggest is that you buy the unbleached and undyed laces, the natural laces, which I'm sure you can get on other sites, but I just use Carver when I'm not buying stuff in bulk because I think they offer a good service, so I've never had any problems with them. I don't see any reason to change my supplier after this long. Just changing the water again. Basically I'll know to stop because the water stops going bright yellow. You can see it's slightly less extreme than it was before. After I've rinsed them out, after I've rinsed this out, what I'm going to then do is dry them off. So it's not exactly the kind of day where I can hang stuff on the line. I don't really want to put these through the tumble dryer because this is already a bit of a tangled mess. I don't know, I may use like a hairdryer or something to speed it up, but if not, I'll just like make sure they're not tangled up and leave them to dry over the radiator or something. I don't really want to leave them somewhere where they're going to get really stiff and horrible though. So. Essentially just keep on rinsing until you're getting a lot less. You can see this is turning out a bit more yellow as I'm getting more of the excess off. Yeah. If you want, you can use sort of like a hand washing detergent or whatever in here. It depends if you're confident, and if I know that this isn't going to just revert to its natural colour, so I would be happy to do that. In fact, it may be a good idea to do it to bring the colour down a little bit. But I'll wait. On that note, I will leave that to soak in the water for a second. The sample I had dyed is now completely dry, and to give you an idea, I have all sorts of like colour cards because it's easier if you're working on something with someone and they kind of vaguely know what colour they want, but either are trying to match it to something specific or know they want a dark purple but are not sure what shade or whichever. To just provide them with some sort of colour cards which I can then take with me when I'm buying fabric. So I've been through all my yellows, and I knew it wasn't going to be like the more sort of bright yellows. So I had a look at the darker ones. I had some sort of more browny ones, and anyway, the one I found which is closest to this is called Sun Drenched Saffron. It's not quite exactly the same, but it's the closest I'm going to get in terms of the texture being different as well. Try and move this a bit so it's not quite so influenced by the fact it's by the window. And you can see it's basically the same colour. It's looking a bit not quite as vibrant and yellow as it is in person, but you can see that. If it focuses, that it's ended up being bright yellow when it's dry. So I'm really happy with that. It's because I was using a natural dye, it turned out a natural looking colour, which I'm really happy with because of the fact that the obviously the piece is a bird, so that's going to be natural colours, whereas if I'd have gone with something that then ended up being more of like this is called Banana Dream, so if it had ended up being that kind of banana yellow, it would have looked a little bit too synthetic for what I was after. I know the actual colour of the bird is slightly paler than this, but I was a little bit worried that if I did it the actual colour, it would end up then being quite white looking from a distance, and as it's on stage and is going to be under quite bright lights, then I wanted it to definitely be yellow. And I mean, you can see the camera isn't bringing up this as its true colour, but to me it is very, very bright yellow, and on here it's still looking yellow even if it's not quite as dark as it is to me. So it's been a really resounding success, I think. It's meant that I've been able to use stuff I had already in the kitchen to dye. I've able to create something that looked a natural colour, which I'm happy with because of the fact that it's to go on a corset which is meant to look like a natural thing, and it's also meant that I've been able to do this without using lots of chemicals, so I've been quite happy about that because I am aware that I didn't really want to use loads of chemicals which were going to, you know, make my hands go horrible. The only thing I will say is that I had got gel nail varnish on, and that has now taken on a bit of the yellow from when I was rinsing it all off. Other than that, it's dyed really, really nicely. The colour hasn't sort of all gone from it whilst I've rinsed it, it's just gone a little bit paler, which is what you get with any form of dyes when you dry them off. And it, from when I was taking this out of where I've been drying the longer part of the lace, everything is a uniform colour, so it's not really splotchy and horrible. Everything is this really nice bright yellow colour. So I'm really happy with how this has turned out, and it's something that I'll use again when dyeing laces, as long as I'm using these natural unbleached laces. I know in the summer we've got all sorts of plants in the garden which I'm able to use to create dyes of different colours, so if anyone's interested in or learning how to make, for instance, a purple or a blue, or I think I can do sort of reds and stuff as well with some of the stuff we've got, then I'd be happy to show that. I don't need any more yellow because of the fact I've got about 15 metres now, but I could also put up a quick list of things which I know would work. So I told you I've used turmeric here, but it would have worked with paprika, would have brought up a similar-ish shade, and then actually a lot of natural plants will give a yellow, so you could have used like rosemary, a couple of sprigs of that, but that wouldn't have been such a vibrant colour, and I was really after quite a primary yellow. There's all sorts of things you can use really, and it's a lot better than using a dye you've bought in the shop, I think, because there isn't that much choice. All I have near me is the Dylon ranges, and I mean, in terms of either purples or greens or yellows, there's not very many. There's just sort of like one red, one green, one yellow, and if that's not the shade you're after, then you're a bit screwed. The same with black. There are things you can use to dye things a really deep black, and you don't need to use chemicals to do it. You can just use stuff you may have in your garden, and if not, it's not exactly expensive to get a small herb pot. You can even buy things like sage and basil from sort of like your local supermarket and use them. So it's definitely something worth investigating if you're either making things for yourself and you're quite specific with wanting laces that match or something, or I mean obviously you'd use like a little sample like this. I was fairly confident this was going to turn out this colour, so I was happy to just do it straight off the bat. But if you wanted to just do like a smaller sample to see what colours there were, like if you were for instance dyeing with tea or coffee, you'd make them up in different strengths and then try each one to see what the colour ended up like. So it's definitely worthwhile. I think it's a good thing to look into if you wanted to have something that was a bit different, because I used to use sort of ribbons and things that matched, but this you can see is, if I am able to focus on it, a bit closer up, it is a proper corsetry lace, which you are not able to see very well. It's nice woven lace, and it's strong, so you can put it on a tighter laced corset than if you were using a ribbon, which would fray and cut into you and stuff, and only really stay nice the first couple of times you wore it. So definitely worth looking into, and also if you're using the unbleached coutil, which you can now buy, possibly a way of, if you whack the laces in with that at the same time, making something really spectacular from only a single layer. So hopefully some of you will have been inspired by this.